Lilia sat at her desk in her small but cozy apartment, surrounded by sticky notes and scribbled sketches. Her dream was unfolding slowly, but surely. A revolutionary app she called Bright Path, designed to help small businesses streamline their inventory. It wasn't just an app. It was a manifestation of years of hard work, late nights, and personal sacrifice. The soft hum of her laptop was the only sound in the room. Outside, the city buzzed with life. But Lilia preferred the stillness of her workspace. Tonight, she was submitting her proposal for the prestigious Innovators Grant, a rare opportunity that could bring her vision to life. As she hit submit, a wave of excitement washed over her. She had done it. She had taken the first step toward something incredible. She leaned back in her chair, her heart fluttering with anticipation. Her first instinct was to share the news with Claire, her best friend since college. Claire had always been her confidant, her cheerleader, and the one person who seemed to understand her drive. Picking up her phone, Lilia hesitated. Should she share this now, or wait until she had good news? After a moment's thought, she sent a quick text. Submitted my proposal, fingers crossed, hey. Almost instantly, a reply came back. You're amazing. I just know you'll get it. We need to celebrate soon. Lilia smiled at the screen. Claire's support was comforting, but as she stared at the message, she couldn't shake Lilia's smile faint, inexplicable unease. 2 weeks later, an email appeared in Lilia's inbox. The subject line read, Congratulations! Innovators Grant Finalist. Her eyes widened as she clicked it open. She had been selected. The joy was overwhelming, a validation of all her hard work. The first person she thought of was Claire. Without hesitation, she called her. Claire, I made it. I'm a finalist. Claire's voice was filled with excitement, but there was something slightly off. A pause too long. A laugh that didn't quite reach her usual warmth. That's incredible, Lilia. I knew you'd do it. When are we celebrating? Lilia brushed it off as her overthinking. Claire had always been there for her, right? They decided to meet that weekend, but as the call ended, Lilia felt a strange hollowness. Was it just her nerves about the upcoming finalist workshop? The morning after her celebration with Claire, Lilia arrived at work to congratulatory smiles from her colleagues. It caught her off guard. She hadn't shared her good news with anyone other than Claire. Claire mentioned you're a finalist for some big grant. Her coworker, Ryan, said with a grin. Lilia froze. Oh, yeah, I am, she said hesitantly. Claire hadn't mentioned she was telling people. It wasn't a big deal, but something about it didn't sit right. Later that day, Lilia overheard whispers in the break room. She only got in because she knows someone on the panel, one coworker murmured. Lilia's heart sank. Where were these rumors coming from? The workshop for finalists was held in a sleek downtown hotel, filled with innovators whose ideas could reshape industries. Lilia had always been confident in her abilities, but the whispers from her workplace had planted a seed of doubt. During a lunch break, she tried to strike up a conversation with another finalist, Olivia. Olivia barely looked at her. It must be nice to have connections, Olivia said flatly. What do you mean? Lilia asked, startled. Everyone's talking about how you knew someone on the judging panel. Lilia was speechless. When Lilia returned home, she called Claire to vent. People are saying I only got in because of some connection. I don't even know anyone on the panel. Claire was silent for a beat too long. Oh, that's just jealousy talking, Lilia. You're amazing. Ignore them. But Lilia caught a defensive edge in her tone. Something wasn't right. The next morning, Lilia received a call from Lisa, a mutual friend. Hey, congrats on the grant. Claire was gushing about how you're totally in with the judges. What? What? Lilia's voice wavered. Lisa hesitated. Yeah, she said it was because of some networking event or something. Is that not true? Lilia's stomach churned. Claire had always been her biggest supporter. Why would she twist the truth like this? Lilia invited Claire to her favorite coffee shop. She needed answers. Why are people saying I had connections with the judges? Did you say something? Claire's face flushed. What? No. I mean, maybe I mentioned that you're super talented and probably impressed them before. People must have twisted my words. Lilia's eyes narrowed. Did you? Claire looked away, avoiding eye contact. Look, Lilia, people gossip. It's not my fault if they take things the wrong way. That night, Lilia scrolled through old texts and memories, replaying every moment where Claire had been there for her. Had she missed the signs of envy? The little comments Claire made about feeling overshadowed now felt heavier, darker. Lilia noticed an unusual uptick in social media mentions about her. Curious, she traced a few back to an anonymous account that seemed to post insider details about her project. The phrasing was oddly familiar, too much like something Claire would say. Lilia set a trap, sharing a piece of false information only with Claire. Within hours, it appeared online. The betrayal was undeniable. As she stared at her phone, tears blurred her vision. Her best friend had been poisoning her success from the start. Lilia sat by her window, watching the sun dip below the skyline. The feeling of betrayal gnawed at her heart. Claire had always been the one person she trusted without question, but now everything was clouded. Why had she lied? Why had she sabotaged her success? That night, Lilia received another anonymous message online. People are saying you're only successful because you slept your way to the top. Her hands trembled as she read the words. The accusations were malicious, and the fact that they had come from someone she trusted made them cut deeper. Lilia felt the weight of the situation. The walls closing in. Every time she thought about confronting Claire, she hesitated. Could she bear to face the truth if it meant losing her best friend? Lilia tried to reach out to Claire, but each time, her calls went unanswered. The silence felt deafening. She sat in her apartment, staring at her phone. She had hoped for a conversation, some explanation, but it was clear that Claire wasn't interested in clearing things up. In the days that followed, the whispers at work grew louder. Her colleagues who had once praised her now eyed her with suspicion. They didn't know the truth, but the rumors seemed to spread like wildfire. Her name was linked to scandal, and no one was asking the right questions. It became clear that the damage was done. Whether she could prove her innocence or not, her reputation had already been stained. Lilia tried to push through the storm of doubt, but it was harder than she imagined. The pressure to succeed was overwhelming. But now, it felt like she was being suffocated. Every glance, every whisper, she couldn't escape them. One afternoon, while in a meeting with potential investors, the topic of her connections came up again. The room grew tense as Lilia tried to explain her credentials, but it was like speaking to a wall. The investors were polite, but the underlying suspicion was there. Lilia felt like she was being slowly erased from the very world she had worked so hard to build. She excused herself from the meeting early, her heart heavy with the burden of it all. It was a defeat, and she couldn't tell if it was the end or just another challenge to overcome. That night, Lilia stood in front of her bathroom mirror, studying her reflection. She had always been strong, self-assured, but now doubts clouded her every thought. She wondered if she had missed the signs with Claire. Had she been too trusting? Had she let her guard down for too long? The answer felt as elusive as the person she once called her best friend. The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt more was how easily Claire had manipulated her. Lilia had thought their bond was unbreakable. Now, it seemed like everything had been a carefully constructed lie. With a sigh, she wiped away the tears that had begun to fall. She wasn't sure what came next, but she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't let this destroy her. The next morning, Lilia received a package at her doorstep. No return address, just her name on the label. She hesitated before opening it. Inside was a small box and a note. The truth will always find its way to the surface. Confused, she opened the box. It contained a USB drive. Lilia hesitated for a moment, unsure of what she would find. Her heart raced as she plugged it into her laptop. The screen flickered before showing a video. Claire. The footage was grainy, but it was unmistakably her voice, saying, "I'll make sure she doesn't get the grant. People like her don't deserve to win. They need to know their place." Lilia's breath caught in her throat. It was Claire, confessing to the sabotage. The betrayal was no longer a question, it was a fact. Lilia decided it was time to face Claire. No more hiding behind vague accusations or silent treatment. She needed answers. She called Claire, her voice steady but filled with determination. "We need to talk." They met at the same coffee shop where they had spoken last time. Lilia watched Claire as she sat down, pretending nothing had changed. "I know what you did," Lilia said quietly, her eyes fixed on Claire. Claire looked at her, a moment of hesitation in her eyes. "What are you talking about?" Lilia slid the USB drive across the table. Claire's expression shifted from confusion to guilt. For the first time, Lilia saw her friend's mask slip. "I never thought it would come to this," Claire whispered, her voice barely audible. "I was jealous. You were always the one who succeeded. I didn't want you to get ahead." Lilia felt a wave of anger and sadness rush over her. "You didn't just hurt me, Claire. You tried to destroy everything I worked for. Why?" Claire's face crumpled as tears filled her eyes. "I was afraid I'd lose you. I thought if I kept you down, I'd be the one who mattered." After the confrontation, Lilia felt strangely numb. The answers she had sought were finally in her hands, but they brought no sense of closure. Claire's apology was hollow, and Lilia couldn't help but wonder if it had all been an excuse to ease her own guilt. The truth, however, had a ripple effect. The rumors that had been circulating around Lilia's success started to unravel. People began questioning where they had heard the lies. Some even approached her to apologize, admitting they had heard false information from others, including Claire. But the damage had already been done. Lilia realized that she could rebuild her career, but it would never be the same. Trust, once shattered, could never fully be restored. Months passed, and the world slowly moved on. Lilia kept her head down, focused on her work, and gradually rebuilt her reputation. The Innovators Grant Workshop went on without her, but she didn't dwell on it anymore. She was stronger now, more resilient. One evening, while scrolling through her emails, she received an unexpected message from an old mentor. "I've been following your journey, Lilia. You've proven yourself time and time again. The world needs people like you." Those words, simple yet profound, were the encouragement Lilia needed. She wasn't defined by her past or the betrayal she had faced. She was her own person, and her story was only just beginning. Lilia's journey was far from over. Though the scars of the past would always remain, she had learned a valuable lesson. Never let anyone dictate your worth. Not even the people closest to you. With renewed purpose, Lilia began working on her next big project. An app designed to support women entrepreneurs in overcoming the barriers that had held them back for too long. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of peace. She wasn't doing it for approval anymore. She was doing it for herself. Years later, Lilia stood in front of a packed auditorium, accepting an award for innovation in technology. The applause was deafening, but it didn't matter to her. What mattered was the journey, the lessons learned, the resilience built, and the strength found in the face of betrayal. As she glanced out into the crowd, she saw Claire sitting in the back, her expression unreadable. For a moment, their eyes met. Lilia could have easily resented her, but instead, she smiled, a silent acknowledgement of the past and how far she had come. It was over. The story of betrayal and loss had shaped her, but it no longer defined her. As Lilia continued her work with her new app, her reputation began to solidify once again. Her innovative ideas were gaining attention, and soon, she found herself in discussions with larger investors. But with the rise in her career came a new set of challenges. One day, an unexpected invitation arrived, an invitation to speak at a prestigious tech conference. Lilia was thrilled at first, but then the familiar feeling of doubt crept in. The memories of the rumors and whispers still haunted her. Would people remember the scandal, or would they focus on her success? She decided to accept the invitation. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to prove to herself that she had earned this moment. Lilia's speech was well received at the conference. She spoke about the importance of innovation, resilience, and the power of overcoming adversity. As she walked off stage, she felt a sense of accomplishment, but something about the whole experience felt unsettling. Later that evening, as she mingled with other attendees, she overheard a conversation that made her stomach drop. "Have you heard about Lilia's past?" one person whispered. "It's amazing how she turned things around after all that drama." The comment was innocent enough, but Lilia couldn't ignore the implication. The past, the scandal, it was still following her. Despite the positive reception at the conference, things began to take a turn. Lilia's app was gaining users, but there were technical issues that had started to surface. It wasn't anything catastrophic, but the glitches were noticeable, and clients were starting to express concerns. She worked tirelessly to resolve the problems, but the pressure weighed heavily on her. Each mistake felt like a failure, and the fear of failure had a powerful grip on her. One evening, after a particularly long day of troubleshooting, Lilia received a call from her lead developer. "Lilia, there's something you need to know. The issues with the app, they weren't caused by us." She paused, confused. "What do you mean?" "I think someone sabotaged the code. It's deliberate." Lilia sat frozen, staring at her phone. Sabotage. The word echoed in her mind. Who would want to hurt her business now? She had worked so hard to rebuild, and now someone was trying to destroy everything she had built. The feeling of betrayal was all too familiar. She had thought Claire was the only one who could hurt her this way. But now, this was different. This was someone who didn't just want to tear her down. They wanted to ruin her entire career. Lilia felt a surge of determination. She would find the person responsible. She wouldn't let them win. Lilia turned to her team for help. They began digging into the code, trying to find traces of who might have planted the malicious lines. It wasn't easy, but after days of searching, they found something suspicious, a series of anonymous messages embedded in the code. The messages weren't just random. They were cryptic, like a warning. One of the messages stood out. "You've made enemies, Lilia. The price of success is higher than you think." Lilia's mind raced. Who would go this far to destroy her? The more she thought about it, the more the pieces began to fall into place. The competition had always been fierce, but this was something deeper. Just as Lilia was beginning to lose hope, a surprising message appeared in her inbox. It was from Lisa, a former friend who had always been there for her. "Lilia," the message began. "I know you've been going through a tough time. I'm sorry for the silence. I have information that might help you." Lilia hesitated. She had lost so many people in her life, but Lisa had always been different. They had worked together years ago on a different project, and Lisa had always been supportive. After a long conversation, Lisa revealed that she had been working for one of Lilia's competitors, a rival tech company. The company had been monitoring Lilia's progress and was willing to go to extreme lengths to bring her down. Lilia was stunned. Her suspicions had been right. The revelation about Lisa's involvement shook Lilia to her core. Lisa had always been a close ally, but now she was part of the very system that had been trying to destroy her. When Lilia confronted Lisa, she tried to justify her actions. "I didn't want to, Lilia. I didn't think they'd go this far. They offered me a position, and I needed the money. I didn't know they would target you." Lilia listened, but the hurt was unbearable. Lisa had known about the sabotage and hadn't said a word. She had been complicit in the destruction of everything Lilia had worked for. The betrayal felt like a weight on Lilia's chest. It wasn't just Claire anymore. It was the people she had trusted. Lilia was exhausted, physically and emotionally. She had been betrayed by two of the people she cared about most, But now she had a new purpose: to rebuild not just her app, but her trust in others. She worked with her team to restore the app, implementing new security features and improving the user experience. The damage from the sabotage was significant, but it wasn't irreversible. Lilia was determined to prove to herself that she could rise from the ashes once again. Along the way, she learned to be more cautious about who she trusted. She couldn't afford to make the same mistake twice. But despite the setbacks, she found peace in knowing that her success was not defined by others. It was defined by her own resilience. Months passed, and Lilia's app began to thrive again. She rebuilt relationships with clients, and the trust she had lost was slowly regained. Her reputation as a capable and innovative leader was re-established, and people began to see her for the true professional she was. But the journey wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, moments when she questioned if it was worth it. But each time, she reminded herself that the obstacles she faced were just stepping stones to something greater. She had learned that success wasn't just about the destination. It was about the journey. Years later, Lilia stood in a room filled with industry leaders and innovators, receiving an award for her contributions to technology. This time, there were no whispers, no rumors, only respect. As she accepted the award, Lilia reflected on everything she had been through. The betrayals, the setbacks, the doubts. It had all led her to this moment. And standing there, in front of everyone, she realized something important. She had survived. She had come out stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. And as the applause filled the room, Lilia knew that this victory was hers, and hers alone. Lilia had spent months rebuilding her app, her career, and her life. But despite her successes, a lingering question remained. Could she ever truly trust anyone again? One night, as she sat at her desk, staring at the glowing screen, the weight of doubt pressed heavily on her. She had fought so hard to get to where she was, but the betrayals of the past haunted her. Even her closest colleagues were now seen through a lens of suspicion. Lilia had become too guarded. As she worked late into the night, an unexpected message popped up on her screen. It was from an unknown number. "I know who you are, and I know what you've done." Lilia's heart skipped a beat. Was this another threat? Another attempt to ruin her? She couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows of her past were never far behind. The message continued. "Don't think you're safe. I'm still watching." Lilia's hands trembled as she read the words. It felt like a ghost from her past had returned to haunt her. She'd thought she had left behind the whispers and rumors, but now they were back. It wasn't just the work sabotage. This was something deeper. Someone wanted to remind her that her success wasn't as secure as she believed. For days, she obsessed over the message. Who could it be? Was it Claire? Lisa? Or someone entirely new? The thought of being watched, of someone holding secrets over her, made Lilia's skin crawl. She had faced so much already, but the fear of being dragged back into the chaos unsettled her. Lilia tried to focus on her work, but the message lingered in her thoughts. She couldn't ignore it, but she didn't know how to confront it. Everything seemed to be going well. Her app was thriving, and her business relationships were improving, but there was something off. Then, a new competitor emerged. A company with striking similarities to Lilia's app. They were offering the same features, and their marketing was eerily similar. Lilia knew it couldn't be a coincidence. Late one evening, she discovered that their lead developer was someone she had once worked with in the past, before the betrayal from Lisa. Lilia felt a chill run down her spine. Was this a simple business rivalry, or was there something more sinister behind it? Lilia couldn't shake the feeling that this new competitor was connected to the strange message she had received. Something about their quick rise in the market seemed too calculated. She decided to dig deeper. She began looking into the company's history and its founder. It didn't take long for her to uncover some unsettling information. The founder had a history of shady business practices, and their company had been involved in several lawsuits regarding intellectual property theft. Lilia felt a knot tighten in her stomach. This wasn't just a rival. It was a personal attack. She had to confront this head-on, but she couldn't do it alone. Lilia reached out to her trusted colleagues for help. Lilia's investigation into the new company took a toll on her. The pressure of running her own business, dealing with sabotage, and now facing a potential legal battle left her feeling overwhelmed. She had spent so much time trying to protect herself from betrayal that she had neglected to care for herself. One evening, after another exhausting day, Lilia found herself standing in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't sure if she had the strength to keep fighting. The weight of her past, the constant fear of being betrayed again, made her question everything. Had she made the right choices? Had she pushed people away for too long? But then, something inside her shifted. She wasn't going to let fear control her. She had faced impossible odds before, and she would do it again. The following week, Lilia received an unexpected visit from an old friend, Victor, a former business partner who had moved to another city years ago. He had heard about her struggles and wanted to offer his help. Victor was well established in the tech industry, and Lilia had always admired his keen insight and strategic thinking. "I know things have been rough for you," Victor said as they sat down at a nearby cafe, "but I believe in what you're doing. Let me help you navigate this new challenge." Lilia felt a sense of relief at his offer. She had spent so long dealing with everything on her own, and now, someone who truly believed in her was offering support. Victor's involvement in the situation gave Lilia a sense of stability. Together, they mapped out a plan to confront the new rival, gathering evidence of the company's questionable practices and preparing a legal response. Lilia felt empowered again. For the first time in months, she wasn't alone in her fight. But just when things seemed to be falling into place, the messages started again. This time, it wasn't just one anonymous message. It was a series of cryptic emails, all saying the same thing. "You can't hide forever. We know what you've done." Lilia's heart sank. No matter how much she tried to move forward, the past was always lurking in the shadows. But she refused to back down. She had a plan, and she was going to see it through. One night, as Lilia and Victor reviewed the legal documents they had gathered, something caught her eye. In one of the emails from the rival company's founder, there was a subtle clue, a reference to a meeting that had taken place long before Lilia had started her business. The meeting was with none other than Lisa. Lilia was stunned. Lisa had been working with the rival company all along. She had been feeding them information about Lilia's business, sabotaging her efforts from the inside. The pieces fell into place. It wasn't just a business rivalry. Lisa had been working with them from the start, using Lilia as a pawn in a much larger scheme. Lilia and Victor decided to confront Lisa once and for all. They arranged a meeting at a quiet cafe, the same place where Lilia had once met with Claire. Lisa's face was a mask of indifference when she sat down, but Lilia could see the flicker of guilt in her eyes. "I know everything, Lisa," Lilia said, her voice calm but firm. "I know you've been working with them, feeding them information about my business." "Why?" Lisa shifted uncomfortably, but her silence spoke volumes. "I did it for the money, Lilia," Lisa finally confessed. "They offered me more than I could refuse. I thought I was doing what was best for me, but I see now that I was wrong. I've ruined everything." Lilia listened quietly, the weight of betrayal sinking in once more. But this time, it didn't hurt as much. She had grown stronger, and she could finally let go of the past. With Lisa's confession, Lilia was able to take decisive legal action against the rival company. The sabotage was exposed, and the company was forced to face the consequences of their actions. Lilia's business was safe, and the threat that had loomed over her for so long had finally been removed. But even more important was the realization that she had regained control of her life. Victor remained by her side, helping her navigate the next phase of her journey. Lilia knew that this chapter in her life was over, but a new one was just beginning. She had survived the betrayals, the sabotage, and the endless challenges. Now, she was stronger than ever. And nothing, no one, could take that away from her. In the months following the legal battle, Lilia focused on restoring her business and her mental health. She had spent so long fighting against external forces, but now she needed to heal internally. The pressure of the past few years had left scars, but she was determined to move forward. She took a step back from the daily grind and spent more time reconnecting with herself. She meditated, journaled, and even went on long walks, rediscovering the peace she had once known. The chaos of betrayal, sabotage, and competition still echoed in her mind, but with each passing day, she found new ways to release the tension that had built up over time. The app continued to grow, and her business was now stronger than ever. Lilia had learned that the true measure of success wasn't just in financial gains or recognition. It was in the ability to find balance amidst the chaos. Lilia's focus began to shift toward innovation once again. With her personal life more balanced, she started thinking about new projects and ideas that could take her business to the next level. She wanted to create something that would not only grow her company, but also make a lasting impact. One evening, she sat with her team, discussing new possibilities. "I want us to think outside the box," she said. "Let's create something, an app, that hasn't been done before. Something that will change the way people interact with technology." Her team was energized by the challenge. For the first time in a long while, Lilia felt like she was in control of her destiny. The shadow of the past had faded, and her vision for the future was clearer than ever. Lilia's new project was ambitious, a groundbreaking platform that would combine artificial intelligence and human connection in a way that had never been attempted before. The possibilities seemed endless, but so did the risks. As she began to shape the idea, she worked tirelessly, bringing in the best minds to help bring her vision to life. The project demanded all of her energy and focus. She poured her heart and soul into it, knowing that it could either make or break her business. But despite the pressure, she was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. This was the future she had always dreamed of. The failures and betrayals of the past had been stepping stones. And now, she was ready to build something lasting. As the project neared its launch, Lilia began to feel the familiar stirrings of doubt. Was she pushing herself too hard? Was this new venture too risky? She had seen how quickly success could turn to failure before, and she wasn't sure she could handle another setback. Late one night, as she sat in her office staring at the project's blueprint, she received an unexpected message. It was from Victor. "Lilia," it read, "I know this is a huge step for you, but I want you to remember something. No matter what happens, you've already accomplished more than anyone could have imagined. Trust yourself." Victor's words were simple, but they offered a sense of comfort. It was a reminder that she had already faced the worst and come out stronger. She could do this. The day of the launch arrived, and Lilia's nerves were on edge. The app had been perfected, the marketing campaign was set, and everything seemed in place. But the pressure of delivering something extraordinary weighed heavily on her. When the clock finally struck the launch hour, Lilia hit the button to make the app live. For a moment, there was nothing. Then the numbers started rolling in. The downloads, the registrations, the excitement. It was a success. The world was paying attention. Lilia felt a wave of relief wash over her. The sleepless nights, the endless revisions, the constant self-doubt, it had all paid off. The app's success surpassed all expectations. Within days, it was featured on major tech platforms, and investors from all over the world reached out. Lilia's team worked around the clock to keep up with demand, but the excitement was palpable. In the weeks following her decision, Lilia began to cultivate deeper relationships with those who believed in her vision. She connected with other entrepreneurs who shared her passion for ethical business practices and social impact. Together, they created a network focused on innovation that would benefit both creators and users. This new alliance was different from anything she had experienced before. There were no hidden agendas, no corporate pressures, just genuine collaboration. Lilia found joy in these relationships, knowing that she was surrounding herself with people who understood the true meaning of success. Her business continued to grow, but now it was more than just about profits. It was about creating a community of people who valued the same principles. One evening, as Lilia walked home from work, she took a moment to breathe in the crisp air. For the first time in a long while, she felt at peace. The weight of the past no longer haunted her. She had faced countless obstacles, but now, the world seemed full of possibilities. As she stood still on the sidewalk, taking in the quiet beauty of the night, she realized that her journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges, but she was no longer afraid. She had faced the worst of what life could throw at her, and had come out stronger. Just when things seemed to be falling into place, Lilia received an unexpected message. It was from Claire, the friend who had once betrayed her. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened," the message read. "I made a huge mistake. I understand if you can't forgive me, but I wanted to reach out." Lilia stared at the message for a long time, emotions swirling within her. She had spent years building her life and business without Claire, and now she was faced with the possibility of reopening old wounds. But then, a sense of calm washed over her. She had forgiven Claire long ago, not for Claire's sake, but for her own. Holding on to anger and resentment would only weigh her down. Without hesitation, she replied, "We all make mistakes. I've moved on, but I wish you well." In the months that followed, Lilia's app reached new heights. She started mentoring young entrepreneurs, sharing her story of resilience and trust. People admired not only her success, but her willingness to help others along the way. Through her mentorship, she came to realize that her true legacy wasn't just in her business or her innovations. It was in the way she helped others rise above their challenges. Her influence was now far-reaching, but it wasn't rooted in power or fame. It was rooted in trust and authenticity. One evening, as she stood in front of a crowd, sharing her experiences and lessons learned, Lilia couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude. She had come so far, from the brink of failure to becoming a beacon of hope and inspiration for others. But the true reward, she realized, wasn't in the applause or the accolades. It was in knowing that she had stayed true to herself, that she had trusted her instincts and values, no matter the cost. For Lilia, the journey had always been about more than just success. It was about growth, both as a leader and as a person. As Lilia's influence grew, so did the ripple effect of her actions. Entrepreneurs around the world began to follow her example, choosing integrity over short-term gains, creating businesses that prioritized people over profits. Her app became a symbol of what could happen when one person refused to compromise their values. And as more individuals embraced this philosophy, the world began to change, one small step at a time. Lilia knew that her journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges, new obstacles. But now, she faced them with unwavering confidence, knowing that she was on the right path. As Lilia stood at the edge of a new chapter in her life, she reflected on everything she had learned, the betrayals, the setbacks, the moments of doubt. They had all led her to this place of peace and purpose. And now, it was time to share the most important lesson of all. The journey of success is never a straight line. It is filled with twists and turns, with moments of doubt and fear. But the key to lasting success lies not in what you accomplish, but in how you stay true to yourself, how you trust your instincts, and how you treat others along the way. Lilia had learned that the greatest victories aren't won by outsmarting your competitors or chasing accolades. They are won by being authentic, by choosing the right friends, trusting yourself to navigate through life's challenges, by never losing sight of what truly matters, and the courage to rise again after every fall.